If you've dreamed of staying in an overwater bungalow, you might also know that most of them cost over $1,000 per night, but as someone who's been running an online guide to overwater bungalows for 12 years now, I can tell you the cheapest ones start at just over $100 per night, and there are really nice ones for under $300 per night. This is Roger from priceoftravel.com, and in this video I'm going to show you 17 of the cheapest overwater bungalows in different parts of the world, so you'll know where to go for affordable luxury. There are now over 250 overwater hotels around the world, and almost all of them are in 5 distinct clusters, so I'm going to show you the cheapest few in each area along with some all-inclusive places to see how much more you'll have to spend for unlimited booze and buffets during your stay. The absolute cheapest overwater resort in the world is the AVANI Sepang Goldcoast Resort, which has an incredible 392 water villas not far from Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia, with rooms starting at $105 per night. I've stayed there myself, and most of this is my footage. The rooms are huge and it's much nicer than you'd expect for the price, but you should know that the cheapest rooms are 4 to a structure and you can't swim off your deck because it's much too high off the water, and it's not really a turquoise lagoon below anyway. Still, for the money, it's amazing value. The second cheapest in Southeast Asia is a short drive down the coast and is by far the largest overwater hotel in the world, with a mind-blowing 522 overwater villas, each with its own splash pool on a private deck. The water villas start at $207 per night, and these things are also huge. I visited the place not long after it opened in 2016, and I'd love to stay there. It's so large that you have to get around by riding in golf cart shuttles, but again, they don't have ladders down into the water, but at least you've got your own splash pool. By the way, all of the room rates mentioned in this video are per night for 2 people, including all taxes and fees. The third cheapest overwater resort in Southeast Asia is the Berjaya Langkawi Resort, which has 47 overwater chalets and is located on Langkawi Island in Malaysia near the border with Thailand. Their rates start at $286 per night, and this has been a very popular resort for a long time. There are more than 300 other rooms, including rainforest chalets, as part of a large 5-star complex with a bunch of restaurants and activities. Next up, we'll head to the Southwest Pacific, which are the islands near Australia, including Fiji and Samoa. There are about 14 overwater resorts here, and prices are much lower than in Bora Bora. The cheapest of them is the Holiday Inn Resort in Vanuatu, with overwater lagoon villas starting at only $294 per night, which you'll see is a real bargain when we get to Bora Bora in a bit. The place gets really good reviews and it's part of the intercontinental chain, but the challenge for most people is that flights from Los Angeles take at least 14 hours with a stop in Fiji, compared to 8 hours to Tahiti or 11 hours to Bora Bora. The next cheapest in the Southwest Pacific is the DoubleTree Hilton Noumea on a small island just off New Caledonia, so it's a couple steps even more remote than the one before. The 25 overwater bungalows here start at $312 per night, and they look super nice with steps leading down into a turquoise lagoon below. I would love to stay at this one, and $312 seems like a really good price for an overwater bungalow like this, but it takes at least 19 hours to get from LA to New Caledonia itself, and then another few hours to get to the resort, so it's a full day in each direction even if you start in LA. It's less than 3 hours from Auckland, so next time you're in New Zealand, this is one to think about. Off we go to the Maldives, which is a very long chain of islands just southwest of Sri Lanka and India. As mentioned before, they've got over 130 water villa resorts, and that includes most of the super luxurious ones, including this one that is about 18,000 square feet and goes for about $14,000 per night. Until a couple years ago, there were dozens of Maldives resorts with water villas for well under $500 per night, but now there are only a few. The cheapest Maldives water villa I could find for 2024 was the Safari Island Resort, starting at $337 per night in June, which is usually the rainiest month in the Maldives. Like all the others here, it's on a small private island, the reviews are surprisingly good, and it looks really nice. One complication worth noting is that the only way to get there is by seaplane from Mali Airport, and that will cost about $400 per person round trip, but that's true of almost all resorts in the Maldives as well, and the flight is a thrill unto itself. The second cheapest water bungalows I could find in the Maldives are at Ellaidhoo, Maldives by Cinnamon at $404 per night. These ones are 850 square feet, so they're huge inside, but there are 2 to a structure, so each one shares one wall with the guests next door. This one also looks super nice and gets great reviews, and it might actually be cheaper than the other one because you can get here on a $200 speedboat round trip instead of a seaplane. I stayed at one of these places and it was an amazing experience, but it's now very difficult to find one for under about $800 per night, even in low season. The Maldives has a few dozen all-inclusive resorts, and the cheapest one I could find in 2024 is the Riu Atoll Resort at $576 per night. This resort is only a few years old and it also looks really nice. The one catch here is that the overwater junior suites are 3 to a structure, so it's not quite that private water villa experience that most people are after. That said, they look really nice, and if you like to drink and or eat a lot on your holiday, this place is excellent value. The second cheapest all-inclusive is the Adaaran Club Rannalhi at $615 per night. They have 26 water bungalows that are 2 to a structure, but they do look well built for privacy, and look at that house lagoon. By the way, all of these places in the Maldives include loads of water sports and activities, and they all have a full service spa that costs extra. By the way, this video is based on an article on priceoftravel.com, which is linked in the description. It's got all of the resorts mentioned in this video with prices and booking links. We've now arrived in Bora Bora, which is far more beautiful than anything in the Caribbean, and it's got about 14 resorts to go along with 2 on Tahiti and 4 others on nearby Moorea. As of about 2015, you could get an overwater bungalow in this area for around $400 per night, but prices have recently spiked and now there are only 3 resorts under $1,000 per night, so let's have a look at all 3 of them. Amazingly enough, the cheapest one is actually on Bora Bora, and it's an old school place called the Hotel Maitai Polynesia, starting at $597 per night. Here's what the nearby Four Seasons Hotel looks like, so you can see why there is a price difference. The cheapest month in Bora Bora is March, and if you want to visit in June, you'll discover that every resort is quite a bit more expensive. Still, this place looks nice, and if you can find availability, it's over $400 per night cheaper than any other resort on Bora Bora. The second cheapest in this area is the Manava Beach Resort and Spa on Moorea at $889 per night. You can reach Moorea by ferry from Tahiti, and that also saves on the extra flight to Bora Bora. They've got 28 overwater bungalows, and it looks really nice to me, but honestly, I'd probably save $300 per night to stay at the one before, or pay $100 more per night to stay at the next one. The only other overwater resort in this area with bungalows under $1,000 per night is the Taha'a Island Resort and Spa, which is actually on the island of Taha'a just across from Bora Bora, and most of its 48 overwater bungalows have amazing views of Bora Bora as well. Unlike the previous 2 I mentioned, this one has its bungalows spread out over a turquoise lagoon instead of just along the coast. In this price range, this one would be my pick. The last region we will head to is the Caribbean, which now has close to 30 overwater resorts, but the majority of them are small eco-resorts in and near Panama that are more suited to divers than to honeymooners. But there are some really amazing ones, and I'll show you examples of both kinds. The cheapest of them is the El Faro del Colibri, with 5 pretty basic looking overwater bungalows with rates starting at $132 per night including tax. If staying in an overwater bungalow is on your bucket list, you can actually achieve that without having to sell your house beforehand. It's located on the Bocas del Toro Islands off Panama's Caribbean coast, and they now have 11 overwater resorts that are mostly about this size. The second cheapest one in the Caribbean is the Punta Carasol Acqua-Lodge with 9 nicer looking overwater suites starting at $248 per night. This one is at least 10 years old, and as you can see, it's set on a shallow lagoon where you can snorkel below your suite. Getting to these islands does take some time and effort, but this place looks like really great value to me. The third cheapest one in the Caribbean is the Eclipse de Mar Acqua-Lodge with 7 overwater bungalows that look even a bit nicer, starting at $285 per night. These places are very eco-friendly as well, as the electricity is courtesy of solar panels and is only on from 6 p.m. until 8:30 in the morning, and they're designed not to need or have air conditioning. Those last 3 resorts could work for many people, but if you want something that competes with the Bora Bora and Maldives ones, you're going to have to spend a lot more money, unfortunately. The cheapest of the super nice ones in the Caribbean is once again in Bocas del Toro, Panama, and it's the recently upgraded Nayara Bocas del Toro Resort with all-inclusive rates starting at $1,254 per night. The overwater villas are 1,100 square feet with Balinese-inspired luxury amenities. This place is also eco-friendly, but here you get air conditioning and twice daily maid service, among other things. Seriously, if you want a super nice overwater bungalow that is close to the US, this is the one to consider. Okay, it's not cheap, but finally we get to the cheapest of the 3 Sandals overwater resorts in the Caribbean, with 12 huge and amazing overwater bungalows at their Sandals South Coast Resort in Jamaica with rates from $3,437 per night. Until 2023, all 3 Sandals resorts charged about $2,200 per night for their overwater bungalows, but apparently they are so popular that these are now $3,500 and the other 2 are over $4,000 per night. I've visited all 3 resorts, including the one in St. Lucia, and the ones at Sandals South Coast are my favorites, and the resort itself is wonderful. There's also a really nice all-inclusive resort near Cancun with overwater bungalows around $1,900 per night, but aside from those, if you're looking for the Bora Bora style experience, your main options are the 3 Sandals resorts, and they are the opposite of cheap. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe to this channel if you want to see more travel videos that show you what things cost around the world.